The airbag's impact was violent, but it wasn't what shattered me. That came an hour later, lying on a gurney, watching a social worker hang up the phone with a look of pure pity. My mother hadn't just missed the call. She had refused it. She left me and my 3-week-old daughter stranded in the wreckage of her indifference, unaware that her rejection was about to wake the only person she actually feared, her father. The silence of a sleeping newborn is the heaviest sound in the world. It is a weight that presses against your chest, filled with a terrifying, fragile peace. I sat in the driver's seat of my sedan, parked in the lot of the Ashford Glen Medical Center. Just listening to it, my daughter, Lily, was 3 weeks old. She was a tiny, warm bundle tucked into a car seat that I had researched for 6 months, checking safety ratings until my eyes blurred. I looked at her in the rearview mirror. Her mouth was slightly open, a little bubble of saliva forming on her lip. She was perfect. She was mine, and I was completely, overwhelmingly exhausted. People tell you about the sleeplessness. They make jokes about coffee and eye bags and zombies, but they do not tell you about the bone-deep vibration of fatigue that makes your hands tremble when you try to button a onesie. They do not tell you about the isolation that feels like being underwater, where the rest of the world moves at a normal speed while you are slogging through thick, heavy currents. I checked my watch. It was 2 p.m. If I timed this right, I could get home, feed Lily, and maybe, just maybe, close my eyes for 20 minutes while she napped in her bassinet. It was a small, sad little ambition, but it was the only one I had. I started the engine. The car hummed to life, a familiar and steady sound. I had bought this car 5 years ago because it was sensible. It had high safety ratings and good gas mileage. It was a car for a woman who followed the rules. That was who I was. Claire Bryant, 32 years old, senior logistics coordinator for a mid-sized shipping firm, currently on maternity leave, single mother, daughter of Marlene Bryant. The last label felt heavier than the rest. I pulled out of the parking lot, navigating the quiet suburban streets of Ashford Glen. The trees were turning, shedding gold and crimson leaves onto the asphalt. It should have been beautiful, but I was too tired to appreciate the scenery. I was mentally calculating ounces of formula and the number of diapers left in the bag. My phone sat in the cup holder, silent. I had not told my mother about the pediatric appointment today. I had learned, over 3 decades of hard lessons, that information was currency to Marlene, and she spent it in ways that usually left me bankrupt. If I told her I was tired, she would tell me I looked terrible. If I told her Lily was crying, she would tell me I was holding her wrong. If I asked for help, she would sigh, a long, tragic sound that suggested my request was a personal assault on her well-being. So I kept my world small. Just me and Lily. We had our routine. We had our walks. We had our scheduled naps. It was lonely, but it was safe. I turned onto the main boulevard. The speed limit rising to 40, I pressed the gas, merging with the afternoon traffic. That was when I felt it. I went to tap the brakes as the car in front of me slowed for a turning vehicle. The pedals sank. It did not catch immediately. It felt spongy, like stepping into wet sand. My heart gave a strange, hard thump against my ribs. I lifted my foot and pressed again. The brakes engaged this time, slowing the car. But the resistance was wrong. It was too soft. You are tired. Claire. The voice in my head was automatic. It was my mother's voice, really, but I had adopted it long ago. You are imagining things. You are being dramatic. You are exhausted and your legs are weak from delivery, and you are just paranoid. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. I was 3 weeks postpartum. My body still felt foreign to me. A landscape of aches and shifting hormones. Of course it was me. It had to be me. The car had been serviced 2 months ago. Marlene had insisted on it. Actually, she had sent her mechanic, a man she had used for years, to pick it up from my driveway because she said I was too pregnant to be driving a death trap. It was one of those rare moments where her control felt like care. I shook my head, trying to clear the fog. Just get home and you can sleep. I approached the intersection of Elm and 4th. The light was green. I was going 35 miles per hour. I checked the rearview mirror again. Lily was still sleeping. A red light flickered on the dashboard. I looked down. It was the brake system warning light. It blinked once, twice, then stayed solid. Panic, cold and sharp, pierced through the exhaustion. This was not my imagination. This was real. I took my foot off the accelerator. I needed to pull over. I needed to stop the car immediately. I looked to the right, checking for a shoulder, a driveway, anything. Then I saw the blur of motion to my left. A dark SUV was coming through the intersection. He was moving fast, too fast. He had run the red light. Time did not slow down. That is a lie movies tell you. Time sped up. It compressed into a single, violent second. I saw the grille of the SUV. I saw the driver's face, turned away, looking at a phone. I did not think about my insurance deductibles. I did not think about my job. I did not think about my mother. I thought of the car seat behind me. I wrenched the steering wheel to the right, hard. I needed to take the impact. I needed to put the engine block, the frame, my own body, between that SUV and my daughter. My tires screeched, a terrible tearing sound against the pavement. I slammed on the brakes, but the pedal went to the floor with zero resistance. Nothing. No friction, no grab. The SUV clipped my front driver's side quarter panel. The force was like a giant hand slapping a toy. My car spun. The world became a kaleidoscope of gray sky, green trees, and black asphalt. I felt the seatbelt lock against my collarbone. Biting into my skin, my head snapped to the side, hitting the window. Metal crunched, glass shattered. The sound was deafening, a cacophony of breaking things. And then, silence. The car had come to rest against a guardrail. I was breathing. I could hear the jagged rhythm of my own lungs. My vision was swimming, dark spots dancing at the edges of my sight. My left shoulder throbbed with a hot, pulsing pain. I turned my head. It felt heavy, like it was filled with water. Lily. She was silent. The terror that washed over me then was worse than the impact. It was a cold, absolute dread that stopped my heart. "Lily?" I croaked. My voice was a broken whisper. From the back seat, a sound, a small, confused whimper, and then a full-throated, angry wail. I have never heard a more beautiful sound in my entire life. She was crying. She was loud. She was alive. "I'm here," I gasped, fumbling with the door handle. "Mommy's here." The door was jammed. I shoved it with my good shoulder. Ignoring the scream of pain that shot down my arm, it wouldn't budge. I clawed at the window controls, but the power was dead. Ma'am, don't move." A face appeared at my window. A woman. She looked terrified. "My baby," I said, pointing backward. "Get my baby." "Help is coming," the woman said. "The ambulance is almost here. Just stay still." "Get my baby," I screamed at this time, the adrenaline burning through the fog of my concussion. I heard sirens then, the rising wail of emergency services. It felt like they were coming from underwater. The next 10 minutes were a blur of fragmented images. Firefighters prying the door open, a paramedic with kind eyes asking me questions I couldn't answer. "What day is it, ma'am?" "My baby," I said. "Check her first, please." "My partner's checking her right now," the paramedic said. "She looks fine. She's just mad. You did good. Mom, you kept her safe." I looked past him. Another EMT was lifting the carrier out of the car. He set it down on the stretcher and peered inside. He smiled. He gave me a thumbs up. The relief broke me. The adrenaline vanished, leaving nothing but shock in its wake. I started to cry. I couldn't stop. Great. Heaving sobs that hurt my chest and made my head spin. I shook uncontrollably, my teeth chattering as if I were freezing. "We need to get you checked out," the paramedic said, stabilizing my neck. "You took a hard hit. I have to go with her," I stammered. "Don't separate us." "We won't," he promised. "She's riding with us." They loaded me onto a gurney. The sky was gray and indifferent above me. As they lifted me, I saw my car. The front end was smashed in. The wheel was twisted at a sickening angle, and on the pavement, underneath the car, I saw a puddle of fluid. Not oil, not coolant. It was clear, brake fluid. The thought floated through my mind like a leaf on a river, detached and distant. My brakes failed, but then the pain in my head surged, washing the thought away. The emergency room at St. Jude's Hospital smelled of antiseptic and floor wax. It was a smell I associated with waiting rooms and bad news. They put me in a curtained bay. A nurse named Sarah, who had a compassionate but no-nonsense manner, checked my vitals. A doctor shone a light in my eyes that felt like a needle piercing my brain. Mild to moderate concussion, the doctor said. He was young, tired-looking. Your shoulder is sprained. Lots of bruising, but nothing broken. You were lucky. Lily? I asked. I was sitting upright on the bed, clutching the side rail. Lily was in her carrier on a chair next to me. She had fallen back asleep, miraculously unbothered by the chaos. She is perfect, the doctor said. The car seat did its job, but here is the situation. Claire, we need to keep you for observation. With the head injury and the loss of consciousness, we need to monitor you for at least 24 hours to make sure there is no swelling or bleeding. Okay, I said. I can stay. I just need to feed her. The doctor exchanged a look with Nurse Sarah. You can feed her, Sarah said gently. But you can't be the primary caregiver right now. You're going to be on medication for the pain. And with the concussion, you're a fall risk if you get dizzy while holding her and drop her, or if you pass out. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. I understand, I said. So she stays in the bassinet right here. It's hospital policy, the social worker said. I hadn't noticed her come in. She was a woman in her 50s wearing a beige cardigan and holding a clipboard. She didn't look mean. She just looked tired. She looked like a bureaucrat who had seen too many sad stories and had stopped letting them touch her. I'm Mrs. Gable, the hospital social worker, she said. Here's the protocol. Because you are incapacitated and admitted for observation, we need a verified adult to be present to assist with the infant. If you have no one to stay with you, we have to place the infant in temporary nursery care, or potentially with Child Protective Services for a 48-hour hold until you are discharged. The words Child Protective Services hit me harder than the airbag. No, I said instantly. No, she stays with me. Then we need someone here, Mrs. Gable said. Is there a partner? A husband? No, I said. My voice was small. Parents? She asked. We saw an emergency contact in your file. Marlene Bryant? Is that your mother? My stomach twisted. I had listed Marlene as my emergency contact 5 years ago when I started my job. I had never changed it because I didn't have anyone else to replace her with. My father had died when I was 10. I had no siblings. I had friends. But they were work friends, people I went to happy hour with, not people I called when I was covered in blood and hospital gowns. Yes, I said. That is my mother. We can call her, Mrs. Gable said. If she can come down and stay in the room with you, that satisfies the requirement. I hesitated. I knew Marlene. I knew that calling her was like pulling the pin on a grenade. She would make this about her. She would tell the nurses I was incompetent. She would sigh and moan and critique my parenting while I was lying there with a brain injury. But the alternative was losing Lily for the night. Okay, I said. Call her. Mrs. Gable picked up the phone on the wall. She dialed the number from my file. She put it on speaker so she could document the conversation. The ringing sound filled the small room. Once, twice, 3 times. Hello? Marlene's voice was crisp, clear. She wasn't asleep. It was 3 in the afternoon. She was probably sitting in her sunroom, drinking iced tea. Mrs. Bryant? Mrs. Gable asked. This is Mrs. Gable from St. Jude's Hospital. I am calling regarding your daughter, Claire. There was a pause, a silence that stretched too long. What has she done now? Marlene asked. Not is she okay? Not what happened. What has she done now? I closed my eyes. The shame burned my cheeks. Claire was involved in a car accident, Mrs. Gable said, her tone remaining professional. She is stable, but she has a concussion and is being admitted for observation. She has her newborn daughter with her. The baby is unharmed. Okay, Marlene said. Her tone was flat. Because Claire is under observation, we require a family member to come and assist with the baby for the next 24 to 72 hours. Mrs. Gable explained. Claire requested we call you. Another silence. I could picture her. I could picture the way she was pursing her lips, the way she was checking her nails. I can't, Marlene said. My eyes snapped open. I beg your pardon? Mrs. Gable said. I can't come, Marlene repeated. I have plans this evening, and quite frankly, I told Claire she wasn't ready for a baby. I told her it would be too much for her. She insisted on doing this alone. She wanted to be independent. Mrs. Bryant, Mrs. Gable said, a slight edge entering her voice. Your daughter is in the hospital. She has a head injury. She needs someone to help hold the baby so she doesn't drop her. She should have thought about that before she got in the car, Marlene said. Her voice was cold. It wasn't the heat of anger. It was the chill of absolute indifference. I am not running down there to clean up her mess. I am not a babysitter. She made her choices. Mom, I whispered. I couldn't help it. The word leaked out of me. Claire? Marlene's voice sharpened. Are you listening? Yes, I choked out. Don't put this on me, she said. Do not dare try to guilt me. You wanted this life. You figure it out. Click, the line went dead. The silence in the room was absolute. It was a physical thing, heavy and suffocating. Mrs. Gable slowly hung up the phone. She didn't look at me. I think she couldn't look at me. It was too raw. It was witnessing a moral injury so deep it felt like a crime. I'm sorry, Mrs. Gable said softly. I stared at the ceiling tiles. I counted the little dots. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I counted the dots, I wouldn't scream. If I counted the dots, I wouldn't acknowledge that the woman who gave birth to me had just left me for dead, because it was inconvenient. Is there anyone else? Mrs. Gable asked. Her voice was gentle, but the question was a knife. Who else? I had spent my entire adult life trying to prove I didn't need anyone. I had built a fortress of independence because reliance on Marlene was a trap. But in building that fortress, I had walled myself in. I had pushed away boyfriends when they got too close. I had kept friends at a distance. I was 32 years old, and I was alone. I started, then stopped. I thought of my grandfather, Walter. He was my father's father. He lived in Lake Briar, about 40 minutes away. I hadn't seen him in 6 months. Marlene hated him. She never said why. Exactly. She just rolled her eyes when his name came up, called him useless or a doddering old fool. She made it difficult to visit him. She would guilt me if I spent holidays with him instead of her. So, to keep the peace, I had drifted away from him. I sent him Christmas cards. I called him on his birthday. When I told him I was pregnant, he had sent a beautiful, hand-carved wooden mobile for the crib. I hadn't even sent a thank you note yet. He was 80 years old. He was retired. He lived a quiet life. He was the only person left on the planet who shared my blood. My grandfather, I said. Walter Bryant. Mrs. Gable nodded, her pen poised. Do you have the number? I recited it from memory. It was an old landline number. Should I call? Mrs. Gable asked. No, I said. I'll do it. I needed to hear his voice first. I needed to know if he was going to reject me too. If he said no, I don't think I could survive it coming from a stranger. Mrs. Gable handed me the room phone. My hands were shaking so bad I misdialed the first time. I took a deep breath, steadied my finger, and dialed again. It rang once. Hello? His voice was raspy, warm. It sounded like pipe tobacco and old books. Grandpa? I said. My voice broke. I sounded like a child. I sounded 5 years old. Claire? The change in his tone was instant. Claire Bear? What is it? What's wrong? The nickname broke the dam. Tears spilled down my cheeks, hot and fast. I'm in the hospital, I sobbed. I was in a car accident, me and Lily. We're okay. But I hit my head, and they won't let me keep her in the room unless someone is here. Mom said no. She said she wouldn't come. There was a silence on the other end. For a terrifying second, I thought he was going to say he was too old, that he couldn't drive at night, that it was too far. She said no? Walter asked. His voice was different. The rasp was gone. It was lower, calmer, but it wasn't the calm of peace. It was the calm of a deep, still ocean before a storm. She hung up on us, I whispered. Grandpa, they're going to take Lily to the nursery if no one comes. Please, I don't have anyone else. Claire, he said. Yes? Tell them I am on my way. The relief was so intense it made me dizzy. Okay, I sobbed. Okay, thank you. And Claire? Yes? Give me the name of the person who told you no. It was Mom, I said, confused. I know it was Marlene, Walter said. I want the name of the hospital administrator. I want the name of the social worker. And I want you to rest. Do you understand? You close your eyes. I will be there in 40 minutes. Okay, I said. I am coming, he said. And I am not leaving. He hung up. I handed the phone back to Mrs. Gable. My hand was still shaking, but for the first time since the crash. The shaking wasn't from fear. He's coming, I said. Mrs. Gable nodded. She wrote something on her clipboard. Good. We will let security know to expect him. I looked at Lily. She was awake, her blue eyes staring up at the fluorescent lights. I reached through the bars of the bassinet and let her wrap her tiny hand around my finger. It's okay, I whispered to her. Grandpa is coming. I didn't know it then, but I had just done the most dangerous thing imaginable. I had woken up Walter Bryant, and the world was about to change. I must have drifted off. The concussion made sleep feel like falling into a deep, black well. I woke to the sound of hushed voices near the door. The room was dimmer now, the harsh fluorescent lights replaced by the softer glow of the monitors. I blinked, trying to focus. There was a man standing by the nurse's station just outside my room. He was wearing a tan trench coat over a dark sweater, his posture upright, almost military in its straightness. Grandpa. But it wasn't the version of him I was used to. The Walter I knew was a man who shuffled in slippers, who spent hours tending to his hydrangeas, who spoke in incomplete sentences about the weather. This man was different. He was speaking to Mrs. Gable and a woman in a suit I assumed was a hospital administrator. He wasn't shouting. He wasn't waving his arms. He was standing perfectly still, his hands clasped behind his back, and the women were listening to him with an intensity that bordered on reverence. I understand the liability, I heard him say. His voice was low, but it carried clearly into the room. And I appreciate your diligence. However, separation is not an option. Claire needs rest. The child needs her mother. I am here to facilitate that, not to disrupt it. Of course. Mr. Bryant, the administrator said. She sounded eager to please. We just need to verify the care plan. The plan is simple, Walter said. I am the designated guardian for the next 72 hours. I will remain in the room. If Claire needs to sleep, I will hold the child. If Claire needs to undergo imaging, I will be with the child. At no point will the child be left unattended or removed to the nursery. Is that acceptable? Yes, the administrator said. That is perfectly acceptable. Good, Walter said. Then let us handle the paperwork. He turned and walked into the room. When he saw me awake, the steel in his face melted instantly. He looked like my grandpa again. Kind eyes, soft wrinkles, a gentle smile. But I had seen the other man now. I had seen the flash of iron. Hey there, kiddo, he said softly, pulling a chair up to the bedside. Hi, Grandpa, I croaked. My throat was dry. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a handkerchief, dabbing at his forehead. You gave me a scare. I'm sorry, I said. I didn't know who else to call. Don't you ever apologize for calling me, he said firmly. Ever. He looked over at the bassinet. Lily was sleeping soundly. He reached out a weathered hand and lightly touched the top of her head, his fingers trembling slightly. She's beautiful, Claire, he whispered. She looks just like you did. She has your nose, I said, trying to smile. Poor girl, he chuckled. Let's hope she grows out of it. He sat back, his expression sobering. Now, listen to me. I need to make a call. Just one. Then we are going to get you settled. Who are you calling? I asked. A friend, he said vaguely. Someone who can help us sort out the logistics so you don't have to worry about anything but healing. He stood up and walked to the hallway again. I watched him through the glass. He pulled out an old flip phone, he refused to get a smartphone, and dialed a number. He spoke for less than 2 minutes. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw the body language. He wasn't asking for a favor. He was giving instructions. When he came back in, he sat down and pulled a small duffel bag from under his chair. I stopped at the store, he said. I didn't know what brand you use, so I bought the expensive stuff. The lady in the aisle said it was the best. He started pulling items out. A can of organic formula, a pack of newborn diapers, a package of wipes, a soft pink fleece blanket. And this, he said, pulling out a small tube. Nipple cream. The lady said you'd need it. I stared at the items on the tray table. It was such a small thing, a bag of supplies. But the thoughtfulness of it, the fact that he, an 80-year-old man, had stopped at a store, found the baby aisle, asked a stranger for advice, and bought these things while rushing to the hospital. It broke me. My own mother had refused to drive 20 miles. She hadn't asked if Lily had diapers. She hadn't asked if I was in pain. She had just said no. The contrast was so sharp it felt like a physical blow. I started to cry again, not the hysterical sobbing from earlier, but a quiet, aching weeping that hurt my ribs. Oh, now, Walter said, leaning forward and taking my hand. His skin was dry and papery. None of that. We're okay. You're okay. Why couldn't she do it? I whispered. Why couldn't she just come? Walter's face darkened. For a second, he looked angry, truly angry, but he pushed it down. Because Marlene is... He paused, searching for the word. Marlene is limited. She has always been limited in what she can give. She's my mother, I said. I know, Walter said. And I am sorry. I am so sorry I didn't protect you from that sooner. He squeezed my hand. But you are not alone. Claire, do you hear me? You are not alone. There was a knock at the door. A woman walked in. She was younger than Walter, maybe in her late 40s, dressed in a sharp navy blazer and holding a leather portfolio. She looked like a high-powered attorney, but her face was warm. Walter, she said, nodding to him. Sarah, he replied. Thank you for coming so quickly. He turned to me. Claire, this is Sarah Jenkins. She is a patient advocate from the firm of Sterling Associates. I called her. I blinked. A patient advocate? It's what we do, Sarah said, stepping forward and offering me a card. We navigate the healthcare system for you. We handle insurance disputes. We coordinate discharge planning. We deal with the paperwork so you can focus on getting better. But I can't afford a private advocate, I said. My insurance won't cover that. It's taken care of, Walter said simply. Grandpa, I started. Claire, he cut me off. Please, let me do this. You have a concussion. You have a newborn. You have a totaled car. You do not need to be on the phone with insurance adjusters for 3 hours tomorrow. Sarah will handle the claim. She will arrange a rental car that can accommodate a car seat. She will coordinate with the hospital social worker to make sure your discharge is smooth. And, Sarah added, I can help arrange temporary home support if you need it. A night nurse, perhaps? Just for a few days? I looked at Walter. Grandpa, this is too much. You're retired. You live on a pension. Walter smiled. It was a tight, secretive smile. I manage. Claire, I manage just fine. I looked at Sarah. She was already taking notes. I'll need your insurance card, Claire, and the police report number if you have it. I think it's in my purse, I said. As Sarah began to work, making calls on her cell phone in the corner, a sense of unreality washed over me. Who was this man? I had grown up thinking Walter was just simple, a nice old man who liked gardening and watching baseball. Marlene had always treated him like a child. "Oh, Dad, don't touch that," she would say. "Dad, go sit down." But this man had summoned a professional advocate in under an hour. He commanded the room. He had resources I didn't know existed. Why had Marlene always acted like he was helpless? Or was she nervous? I remembered the way she would get tight-lipped whenever I mentioned visiting him, the way she would check my expression when I came back, asking, "What did he say? Did he talk about the past?" I had always assumed she was worried his mind was slipping. Now, watching him calmly discuss liability clauses with Sarah, I realized she wasn't worried he was losing his mind. She was worried he would use it. My phone buzzed on the bedside table. I picked it up. The screen lit up with a name that made my stomach clench. Mom. I stared at it. "You don't have to answer that," Walter said. He hadn't even looked at the phone. He just knew. "I have to," I said. "If I don't, she'll keep calling. She'll call the nurse's station." I pressed answer. "Hello? Who is with you?" No hello, no concern, just an accusation. "What?" I said. "The hospital called me back," Marlene said. Her voice was tight, high-pitched. "They said the requirement for a family member had been satisfied. Who is there? Claire?" "Grandpa is here," I said. Silence. A long, stunned silence. "You called my father?" she asked. The venom in her voice was palpable. "I didn't have a choice," I said, my voice shaking slightly. "You refused to come. Mom, you said no." "I said I couldn't come right then," she snapped. "I didn't say call him. Do you have any idea what you've done? He's not capable of caring for a baby. Claire, he's old. He's confused." "He seems pretty clear to me," I said. "He's helping me." "He is manipulating you," Marlene said. "He loves to play the hero. He loves to swoop in and make me look bad. Did he tell you I was a bad mother? Did he start with his stories?" "He hasn't said anything about you," I said. "He's just holding Lily." "Don't let him alone with her," Marlene ordered. "I mean it. Claire, he's not stable. I'm coming down there." "No," I said. The word surprised both of us. "Excuse me?" "No," I repeated. "You said you weren't coming. You said, 'Don't put this on me.' So I'm not. Grandpa is here. We're fine. Don't come." "Claire Elizabeth Bryant," she warned. "You are being ridiculous. You are hurt, and you are emotional. I am your mother." "Then act like it," I snapped. My head throbbed with the effort. "You left me here. Mom, you left me." "I was teaching you a lesson about responsibility," she cried. "You need to learn to stand on your own 2 feet." "I am lying in a hospital bed with a brain injury," I yelled. Tears were streaming down my face again. "That's not a lesson. That's cruelty." Walter reached over and gently took the phone from my hand. "Marlene," he said. His voice was flat. "Dad?" I could hear her shriek even without speakerphone. "Put her back on." "Claire is resting," Walter said. "She is safe. The baby is safe. You made your position clear earlier. We are respecting that position." He listened for a moment as she shouted on the other end. "If you come here," Walter said, cutting her off, "I will have security remove you. Do not test me, Marlene." He hung up. He placed the phone face down on the table. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I had never heard anyone speak to my mother like that. No one told Marlene no. She was a force of nature. She steamrolled people. "She's going to be so mad," I whispered. The old childhood fear was clawing at my throat. "Let her be mad," Walter said calmly. Anger is the only thing she has left. Sarah, the advocate, stepped forward. I have the rental confirmed for tomorrow morning, and I've spoken to the hospital billing department to ensure all bills are routed directly to my office for review before they are sent to you. That way, you won't get any surprise invoices. Thank you, I said. Really, thank you. One more thing, Sarah said. The police report mentioned a mechanical failure. The insurer has flagged the claim for a deeper investigation. They're sending a specialist mechanic to look at the braking system. The memory of the soft pedal came rushing back. The warning light came on, I said, right before the crash. But Mom had the car serviced 2 months ago. She insisted on it. Walter looked up sharply. Marlene had it serviced? Yes, I said. She sent her mechanic to pick it up. She said I shouldn't be driving with worn brakes while I was pregnant. Walter and Sarah exchanged a look. It was a quick, subtle glance, but I caught it. Who is her mechanic? Walter asked. I don't know his name, I said. Some guy she's used for years. She handled it all. She even paid for it as a baby shower gift. We will look into it, Sarah said, her tone neutral. Standard procedure. But the air in the room had changed. The cozy safety of the hospital room felt suddenly colder. It was just an accident, I said, trying to convince myself. The other guy ran the red light. Yes, Walter said. But your brakes should have worked. Claire, even if he ran the light, you should have been able to stop. He didn't say what we were all thinking. If the brakes had worked, I wouldn't have been in the intersection. A nurse came in then. Time for vitals, Claire, and we have some paperwork for the temporary guardianship. She handed me a clipboard. It was a standard form, authorizing Walter Bryant to make medical decisions for Lily and to provide care in my absence for the duration of my hospital stay. I looked at the form. It was just paper and ink, but as I signed my name, Claire Bryant, it felt like I was signing a treaty. I was officially aligning myself with Walter. I was choosing him. There, I said, handing it back. Good, the nurse said. Now, try to get some sleep. We'll be in every 2 hours to check your pupils. The room quieted down. Sarah left, promising to return in the morning. Walter pulled his chair closer to the bed. He took out a book, a paperback Western, and put on his reading glasses. Go to sleep, Claire, he said. I'm right here. I closed my eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. My mind was racing. Marlene's voice, the brake pedal, Walter's sudden authority. Grandpa? I whispered. Why did you say Mom is afraid of you? He didn't answer for a long time. I thought maybe he hadn't heard me. I opened my eyes. He wasn't reading. He was staring at the wall, his expression unreadable. Because she knows what I know, he said softly. What do you know? He looked at me then. His eyes were sad, incredibly sad. That she isn't who she pretends to be, he said. And that the life she has built, the money, the reputation, the control, it's all built on sand. And she knows that I am the only one who can wash it away. Why haven't you? I asked. If she's bad, why haven't you stopped her? Because, he said, stopping her would have meant hurting you. Or so I thought. I thought silence was protection. I thought if I just stayed out of the way, she would leave you alone. I thought she would love you in her own way. He reached out and tucked the blanket around my shoulder. I was wrong, he said. I see that now. Today proved I was wrong. Silence didn't protect you. It just left you vulnerable. I don't understand, I said. You don't need to yet, he said. Just rest. But know this, Claire, I am done being silent, and I am done being afraid of her. He went back to his book, but he didn't turn the page. I drifted off again, lulled by the steady rhythm of Lily's breathing and the presence of the man sitting guard beside me. For the first time in my life, I felt truly safe, and for the first time in my life, I realized that safety wasn't about being alone. It was about being with the right person. The next morning, a detective came. He was a plainclothes officer, Detective Miller. He was polite, professional. He asked me to walk him through the accident. I told him everything: the route, the speed, the other car. And the brakes, I said. Don't forget the brakes. Tell me about that, he said, flipping open his notebook. They felt soft, I said. Mushy. And then the light came on. The warning light. It was just for a second, but I saw it. He wrote that down. And you had the car serviced recently? 2 months ago, I said. My mother arranged it. He paused. The pen hovered over the paper. Your mother arranged it? Yes, I said. Is that important? Maybe not, he said. But we'll check the service records. We'll check the master cylinder. We'll see if there was a leak or a failure. It could just be bad luck, I said. Right? Could be, he said. But in my experience, modern brakes don't just fail completely without warning unless there is significant neglect or what? Or interference, he said. He closed his notebook. We'll be in touch. Ms. Bryant, glad you and the baby are okay. When he left, Walter was standing by the window, looking out at the parking lot. Interference, I repeated. He means sabotage. He means he's doing his job, Walter said. Don't jump to conclusions, Claire. But who would sabotage my car? I asked. I'm a logistics coordinator. I don't have enemies. Walter turned around. You have a mother who needs you to be dependent on her, he said. The words hung in the air. No, I said. That's insane. She's controlling. Grandpa, she's mean. But she wouldn't try to kill me. She wouldn't try to kill Lily. I didn't say she tried to kill you, Walter said. Sabotage doesn't always mean cutting a brake line so you drive off a cliff. Sometimes it means loosening a bleeder valve so the fluid leaks out slowly, so the brakes fail gradually, so you have a scare. So you crash your car, but maybe at low speed. So you need help. So you need her. I felt sick. That is monstrous. It is, Walter agreed. And I pray I am wrong. I pray it was just a rusty line. But until we know, we assume nothing. He walked over to the bassinet and picked up Lily. She was awake, looking around with wide, curious eyes. We are going to my house when you are discharged, Walter said. Not yours. My house is closer to the pediatrician, I argued weakly. My house has a security system, Walter said. And my house is not where she expects you to be. She's going to be furious, I said. Let her be, Walter said again. He looked down at Lily, rocking her gently. We are starting a new chapter, Claire, and in this chapter, Marlene doesn't get to hold the pen. I looked at him, this man who had transformed overnight from a background character into the protagonist of my life. I didn't know the full story yet. I didn't know what secrets he was keeping or what war he was preparing for, but as I watched him hold my daughter, I knew one thing for sure. I was on his side. The discharge paperwork was a stack of yellow and white carbon copies that felt heavier than they looked. I sat in the wheelchair near the hospital entrance, holding Lily in my lap, while Walter pulled his Buick around. The nurse standing next to me was reciting the instructions for the third time. Do not lift anything heavier than 10 pounds. Do not drive. Do not stare at screens for prolonged periods. If you feel dizzy, sit down immediately. Wake up every 4 hours to check for confusion. It sounded like a prison sentence. I was Claire Bryant. I was the woman who assembled her own IKEA furniture. I was the woman who drove herself to the hospital in labor because I didn't want to bother anyone. I was the logistics coordinator who managed international shipping routes with a cell phone and a laptop. And now I wasn't allowed to carry my own daughter in her car seat. Walter pulled up to the curb. His car was an older model sedan, pristine and polished, the color of a stormy sea. He got out, moving with that new, surprising efficiency I was still trying to reconcile with my memory of him. He opened the back door, took the car seat from the nurse, and secured it into the base he had installed earlier that morning. He didn't ask if I needed help getting in. He just offered his arm. It was a sturdy arm, wrapped in a tweed jacket that smelled of rain and tobacco. I took it. I had to. My legs felt like rubber, and the world had a tendency to tilt sideways if I turned my head too fast. We drove out of the city in silence. The landscape shifted from the gray concrete of Ashford Glen to the rolling hills and wooded lots of Lake Briar. It was only 40 minutes away, but it felt like crossing a border into a different country. I watched the trees blur past the window. I tried to organize my thoughts, but my brain felt sluggish, wrapped in cotton. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the grille of the SUV. Every time I opened them, I saw the empty passenger seat where Marlene should have been. I had spent the last 24 hours trying to rationalize her refusal. I told myself she was scared. Marlene had always been squeamish about hospitals. She fainted at the sight of blood. Maybe she panicked. Maybe the thought of seeing me hurt was too much for her sensitive constitution. But then I remembered her voice. Don't put this on me. It wasn't high-pitched with hysteria. It wasn't breathless with fear. It was flat. It was annoyed. It was the voice of a woman who had been asked to pick up dry cleaning on her day off. It wasn't panic. It was rejection. Pure and simple. She didn't come because she didn't want to. She didn't come because the inconvenience of my trauma outweighed her instinct to mother. The realization sat in my stomach like a stone, cold and heavy. We turned onto a gravel driveway lined with old oak trees. Walter's house was a single-story ranch with white siding and black shutters. It sat on 2 acres of land that backed up to the lake. I hadn't been here in years. Marlene always made excuses why we couldn't visit. It smells old, she would say. It is too far. There is nothing to do there. Walter parked the car and killed the engine. We are here, he said softly. He helped me inside while I carried Lily. The house was warm. It smelled of lemon polish and cedar. I expected it to look like a bachelor pad for an octogenarian. Dusty, cluttered with newspapers, maybe a little neglected. Instead, it was immaculate. The hardwood floors gleamed. The windows were clear. And as he led me down the hall to the guest room, I stopped in the doorway. The room was ready. The bed was made with fresh, crisp linens. A small bedside lamp was on, casting a golden glow. And in the corner, near the window, was a bassinet. It wasn't new, but it was spotless, lined with a soft yellow sheet. Next to it was a changing table stocked with the diapers and wipes he had bought yesterday, arranged in neat rows. It didn't look like a room that had been thrown together in a panic while I was in the ER. It looked like a room that had been waiting. I turned to Walter. He was setting my bag down on the chair. "You did all this?" I asked. "I had Mrs. Gable call a cleaning service while you were sleeping." He said, "They came this morning. I wanted it to be nice for you." It was a lie. I could tell by the way he didn't look at me. A cleaning service didn't arrange diapers in perfect symmetry. A cleaning service didn't pull a vintage bassinet out of storage and dust it off. He had been ready. For a long time. Maybe. Why? I asked. "Because," he said, turning to face me, "I knew the day would come when you would need a place to land. I just hoped it wouldn't happen like this." He walked over to the window and adjusted the blinds. "Rest," he said. "I will make some soup." The next 2 days were a blur of naps, feedings, and a quiet, steady rhythm that felt completely foreign to me. I was used to chaos. My life with Marlene, even from a distance, was a series of emotional fires I had to put out. A passive-aggressive text, a demand for attention, a crisis about a neighbor or a bill or a perceived slight. At Walter's house, there were no fires. There was just the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway and the soft coos of my daughter. Walter was an incredible caregiver. He didn't hover. He didn't critique. He just appeared when I needed him. If Lily started fussing while I was in the shower, I would step out to find her already in his arms, being walked around the living room while he hummed an old Sinatra song. If I sat down on the couch, a glass of water and a plate of toast would slide onto the table next to me. He treated us like we were precious, not fragile in a weak way, but valuable, like fine china that had been mishandled and needed to be put back on a safe shelf. But the outside world was not as peaceful. On the third day, my phone rang. It was Sarah Jenkins, the patient advocate. "I have an update on the car," she said. Her voice was professional. But there was a tension in it that made me sit up straighter on the sofa. "Tell me," I said. "The insurance adjuster sent a forensic mechanic to look at the wreck." She said, "They found unusual wear on the brake pads and the caliper pistons." "Unusual how?" I asked. "Uneven," she said, "and inconsistent with the mileage. The report says it looks like the calipers were sticking, causing excessive heat and fluid degradation. But here's the thing. Claire, you said the car was serviced 2 months ago. It was," I said, "a full brake job. New pads, fluid flush, everything." Sarah paused. "If that is true," she said, "then the pads shouldn't look like they are 5 years old. And the fluid shouldn't be that dark. The mechanic said it looks like someone either didn't do the work they charged for, or they did something to accelerate the wear." My hand went to my throat. "Are you saying it was sabotage?" I whispered. "I am saying it is suspicious." Sarah said, "It is not proof of malicious intent yet. It could be gross negligence by the shop, fraud. But given the context, we are flagging it. The police have the report." I hung up the phone and looked out the window. The lake was gray and choppy under the autumn sky. Sabotage. The word felt too big for my life. Sabotage was for spy movies. It wasn't for single mothers in Ashford Glen. But then I thought about the mechanic. I didn't know his name. Marlene had just said, "Leave the keys in the mailbox. He will pick it up." I never saw an invoice. I never saw a receipt. Marlene said she paid for it. She insisted on it. A cold shiver went down my spine. Walter walked in then. He saw my face. "The car?" he asked. "It wasn't just bad luck." I said, "The brakes were wrong." He nodded slowly. He didn't look surprised. "We need to talk about legalities," he said. He sat down in the armchair opposite me. He looked tired today. The energy of the rescue was fading, revealing the age underneath. "I had Sarah contact a family attorney I know," he said, "a woman named Nora Vega. She is drafting some documents for you to sign." "What kind of documents?" I asked. "A medical proxy," he said, "and a designation of emergency guardianship." I frowned. "I already signed the hospital form. That was temporary." Walter said, "That expires when you are discharged. We need something permanent, something that stands up in court." "Why?" I asked. "Because," Walter said, leaning forward, "if something happens to you, if you faint and hit your head, if you have a seizure from the concussion, the state looks for the next of kin. And right now, legally, if you are incapacitated, that is your mother." The thought of Marlene making decisions for me, or for Lily, made my blood run cold. "She would take her," I whispered. "She would," Walter said. "She would take Lily, and she would tell the world that you were unfit, that you were unstable, that you crashed your car because you were careless, and she would raise that little girl to be just as afraid of her as you are." I looked down at Lily, sleeping in the crook of my arm. Her eyelashes were so long. Her hands were curled into tiny fists. "I won't let that happen," I said. "Then we need paper." Walter said, "We need to make sure that if the worst happens, Marlene has no legal standing. I will sign whatever you want." I said, "Good," he said. "Nora is coming by tomorrow." The attacks didn't just come from the past. They came from my present, too. Later that afternoon, I opened my laptop to check my work email. I had an out-of-office reply set up, but I wanted to make sure nothing urgent had exploded. There was an email from my boss, David. The subject line was, "Checking in. Urgent." My stomach dropped. David was a good guy. He was relaxed. He never marked things urgent unless the building was on fire. I opened it. "Hi, Claire. First, I hope you are recovering well. We were all shocked to hear about the accident. I wanted to give you a heads up. We received a phone call this morning from your mother, Marlene. She asked to speak to HR. She told them that you were suffering from severe postpartum psychosis and that the accident was a result of a mental break. She suggested that we should place you on extended disability leave and restrict your access to company systems for your own safety. Obviously, we are not acting on this without talking to you, but she was very persuasive. Claire. She claimed to have medical documentation coming. I just wanted to make sure you knew. Call me when you can. David. I stared at the screen. The letters swam before my eyes. Postpartum psychosis. She wasn't just refusing to help me. She was actively trying to dismantle my life. She was trying to paint me as crazy. If I lost my job, I lost my insurance, I lost my income, I lost my ability to care for Lily. And who would be there to pick up the pieces? Marlene. It was a trap, a meticulously laid trap. I grabbed my phone and dialed David immediately. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped it. Claire? David answered on the first ring. It is a lie, I said. I didn't say hello. I just spit the words out. David sighed, a long, relieved exhale. You sound like yourself. I am myself. I said, I have a concussion. David, a concussion, not psychosis. My mother is confused. She is trying to control the situation. She sounded very concerned. David said, She said you were hallucinating. I am looking at a spreadsheet right now. I lied. I am lucid. I am fine. Please, David, do not let her talk to HR again. She does not represent me. Okay, David said. Okay, I believe you. Claire, you have never given us a reason to doubt you. I will flag her number. But you might want to get ahead of this. If she starts calling clients, I won't let her. I said. I hung up and threw the phone onto the cushion. I felt a surge of rage so hot it made my vision blur. This wasn't just a bad mother. This was an enemy. I looked up to see Walter standing in the doorway. He had heard. She called your work? He asked. She told them I was psychotic. I said, she tried to get me fired. Walter closed his eyes. He took a deep breath through his nose. She is escalating, he said. She knows she is losing control of the narrative, so she is trying to burn the book. Why? I asked. Why does she hate me this much? She doesn't hate you, Walter said. He walked over and sat on the edge of the coffee table. She consumes you. It is different. You are not a person to her. Claire, you are a mirror. And if you are successful, if you are happy, if you are independent, then the mirror doesn't reflect what she wants to see. He looked down at his hands. And she needs you to be weak, he added, because if you are strong, you might ask questions. Questions about what? I asked. Walter stood up. He walked to the window and looked out at the lake again. About the money, he said. I frowned. What money? We don't have money. Grandpa, Mom always said we were barely scraping by. That is why I took out loans for college. That is why I worked 2 jobs. Walter turned around. His expression was grim. 30 years ago, he said, when your grandmother died, she left a trust. It wasn't a fortune, but it was significant. It was meant for you, for your education, for your first home, for your child. My mouth fell open. I never saw a dime. I said, I know. Walter said, Marlene was the trustee. She told me you knew about it. She told me you wanted her to manage it because you didn't want the responsibility. She said you used it to pay off debts. She said you used it to buy that car. That is a lie. I said, I paid for my car. I paid for my tuition. I know. He repeated, I know that now. But back then she was so convincing, and I was grieving, and I wanted to believe her. He looked at me with such sorrow that I had to look away. She stole it? I asked. She redirected it. He said, I suspect she used it to maintain her lifestyle. The house, the clothes, the club memberships, all the things she said she earned with her investments. It was your money, Claire. I sat back against the cushions. I felt numb. All those years I ate ramen noodles. All those years I stressed about rent. All those years she made me feel guilty for asking for $20 for a field trip. She was spending my money, and you let her, I whispered. The accusation hung in the air. Walter didn't flinch. Yes, he said, I let her. I asked her about it once, 10 years ago. She exploded. She told me I was senile. She told me if I accused her of theft, she would never let me see you again. He took a step toward me, and I was a coward. Claire, I was afraid of losing the little crumbs of contact she allowed me, so I stayed silent. I traded your financial future for the occasional phone call. I stared at him. I wanted to scream at him. I wanted to tell him he was just as bad as she was. But then I looked at Lily. I thought about what I would do to keep her, what I would tolerate, what compromises I would make, but I wouldn't steal from her. I thought, I wouldn't cripple her to keep her close. I am sorry, Walter said. His voice was rough. I know that is not enough, but I am going to fix it. That is why I called the lawyer. We are going to audit the trust. We are going to find every penny. It's gone, Grandpa, I said bitterly. You know it's gone. Maybe, he said, but the truth isn't gone, and the truth is worth more than the money right now. He walked out of the room, leaving me alone with the ticking clock and the sleeping baby. I needed to move. I needed to do something other than sit there and feel the betrayal soaking into my bones. I stood up, careful of my dizziness. I walked down the hallway. I found myself at the door of Walter's study. I pushed it open. It was a small room, lined with bookshelves. A heavy oak desk sat in the center. It smelled of old paper and dust. I walked over to the desk. It was cluttered with papers, legal pads, printouts, notes. He had been working. I looked down at the stack of papers. There was a file folder labeled Claire. I opened it. Inside were clippings, newspaper clippings. Local student makes dean's list. Claire Bryant. Promoted to logistics manager. Ashford Glen High School graduation. He had saved them all. Every milestone I thought he had missed. Every achievement Marlene had dismissed with a shrug. He had been watching. He had been proud. And then, under the clippings, I found an envelope. It was yellowed with age. The handwriting on the front was shaky. To Claire. To be opened when I'm gone. I shouldn't open it. It was for after he died. But I was angry. I was hurt. And I felt like the rules didn't apply anymore. I tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of lined notebook paper. The date at the top was from 5 years ago. My dearest Claire, if you are reading this, I have passed on. There are things I should have said to you in life that I was too weak to say. You need to know that your mother is not well. I do not mean she is sick in a way doctors can fix. I mean she has a hole in her soul that she tries to fill with other people's lives. I should have stopped her when she took the trust. I should have stopped her when she isolated you from your friends. I should have stopped her when she lied to you about your father. I failed you. I chose peace over justice. And I have lived with that shame every day. Please forgive an old man his fear. And please, do not let her take your joy. You are stronger than she is. You always have been. Love, Grandpa. I lowered the letter. She lied to you about your father. My father died of a heart attack when I was 10. That was the story. That was what Marlene said. It was sudden. It was tragic. What was the lie? I felt a fresh wave of nausea. How deep did this go? Was anything in my life real? I heard Lily start to cry in the living room. The sound pulled me back to the present. I wiped my eyes, stuffed the letter into my pocket, and went to her. I picked her up, holding her close to my chest. She smelled like milk and innocence. I won't lie to you, I whispered into her soft hair. I promise, I will never lie to you. The evening passed in a haze. I fed Lily. I burped her. I changed her. The routine was my anchor. It was the only thing that felt true. Walter made dinner, but we didn't talk much. The air between us was heavy with the things he had admitted and the things I had read. Around 9 o'clock. My phone buzzed. It was a voicemail. I didn't recognize the number. It was local. Though, I put the phone to my ear. Ms. Bryant? The voice was female, hesitant, nervous. You don't know me. My name is Elena. I used to be your mother's personal assistant about 3 years ago. I saw the news about your accident on Facebook. There was a pause. I could hear breathing. I could hear traffic in the background. I shouldn't be calling you. She made me sign an NDA. I can't sleep. Another pause. Your accident wasn't luck. Claire, and it wasn't just bad maintenance. I have the emails. I have the scheduling logs. She tracks you. She knows where you are, and she knows when you drive. The woman's voice dropped to a whisper. I can prove it. But you have to meet me, alone. I'm scared of her. Claire, you should be too. The message ended. I lowered the phone. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. I looked at Walter. He was dozing in his chair, his head tipped back, his mouth slightly open. I looked at the dark window. Somewhere out there, in the night, a stranger held the missing piece of the puzzle. And my mother wasn't just a narcissist. She was a predator, and she was hunting me. The coffee shop was called The Daily Grind. It was one of those places with exposed brick walls and Edison bulbs, the kind of spot where people typed on laptops and ignored the world. I sat at a small table in the back corner, nursing a decaf latte I wasn't allowed to drink yet because of the caffeine restriction. But I needed something warm in my hands. Walter was 3 tables away. He had a newspaper open, but he wasn't reading it. His body was angled toward me, his hearing aid likely turned up to maximum volume. I checked my watch. 10 in the morning. The bell above the door jingled. A woman walked in. She looked unremarkable. Brown hair pulled back in a messy bun. A puffer coat. A tote bag. She looked like every other tired mom in the suburbs. She scanned the room, saw me, and hesitated. I raised a hand. She walked over, her movements skittish. She didn't sit immediately. She looked at Walter, then back at me. "Is that him?" she asked. Her voice was low. "That is my grandfather," I said. "He is just here to make sure I don't fall over. I am still recovering." She nodded and sat down. She kept her coat on. "I am Elena," she said. "I worked for your mother for 11 months. I quit last May." "Why did you call me?" "Elena?" I asked. She reached into her tote bag and pulled out a manila envelope. It wasn't thick. It didn't look like a smoking gun. It just looked like paperwork. "Because I saw the news," she said. "And because she made me do things that felt wrong, and I need to clear my conscience." She slid the envelope across the table. "I was her personal assistant," Elena said. "But really, I was her spy. She called it family management. She had me install a tracking app on her phone that linked to your email. I don't know how she got your password, but she had it. She said it was for emergencies." I opened the envelope. Inside were printouts of emails. They were notifications from a location service. Claire Bryant arrived at Ashford Glen Medical Center. Tuesday, 2 p.m., Claire Bryant arrived at Target. Saturday, 10:15 a.m., Claire Bryant arrived at 405 Oak Street. Friday, 8 p.m. My skin crawled. 405 Oak Street was my ex-boyfriend's house. I had gone there once, 2 years ago, to drop off a box of his things. Marlene had asked me casually the next day if I had seen him lately. I had said no. She had just smiled. "She knew where I was," I whispered. "Always." "She set alerts," Elena said. "If you went more than 20 miles from your house." She got a text. She said she worried about you driving alone. Elena flipped to the next page. It was a calendar printout. "This is from last year," she said. "See these appointments? Car service, Claire. She scheduled them. She told you to leave the keys, right?" "Yes," I said. "Look at the notes," Elena said. Pointing to a small text field at the bottom of the entry, I squinted. Instructed mechanic to check tires only. Do not upsell. Do not replace fluids unless critical failure. She micromanaged the maintenance, Elena said. She wanted to save money, maybe. Or maybe she just wanted to control the relationship with the shop. But she specifically declined the recommended service intervals. I remember the mechanic calling once, saying your brake pads were getting low. She told him to leave them. She said, "She doesn't drive that much. They will last another year." I stared at the paper. "She ignored a safety warning," I said. "She overruled it," Elena corrected. "And then, 2 months ago, I wasn't there anymore. But if she did the same thing? If she told them to cut corners? She looked at me, her eyes wide and sincere. I am not saying she cut the line, Claire. I don't think she is a murderer, but I think she likes you to be manageable, and a car that isn't reliable makes you less independent. I sat back. The noise of the coffee shop faded into a dull roar. It wasn't a movie plot. There was no hitman. There was no bomb. It was just the banality of control. She had cheaped out on my safety because she didn't respect my life enough to protect it. Or worse, she had gambled with my safety because if my car broke down, I would have to call her. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because she fired me for buying the wrong brand of sparkling water, Elena said. She screamed at me for 20 minutes. She is a cruel woman, Claire. And when I saw the picture of your car, I just thought you should know. Elena stood up. I have to go, she said. Please don't tell her I met you. She knows people. I won't, I said. Thank you. She walked out. I watched her go, then looked at the papers again. Walter appeared at the table. He didn't ask what was in the envelope. He just put a hand on my shoulder. Ready? He asked. Yes, I said. I am ready to go home. The drive back to the lake house was quiet. I held the envelope in my lap like it was radioactive. When we got inside, Walter went straight to the kitchen to warm up a bottle for Lily. I sat at the kitchen island, spreading the papers out. She tracked me, I said, for years. Walter nodded. He was measuring water, his back to me. I suspected as much. She always knew things she shouldn't know. Elena said Marlene overruled mechanic recommendations. I said, she told them not to replace things to save money or to keep the car on the edge of failure. Walter turned around, the bottle in his hand. That sounds like her, he said. Why? I asked. Why is she like this? You raised her. Grandpa? You and Grandma? You were good people. How did she become this? Walter sighed. He sat down opposite me. We spoiled her, he said. That is the simple answer. We gave her everything because we wanted her to have the life we didn't. But somewhere along the way, she decided that everything wasn't a gift, but a right, and she decided that control was the only way to ensure she kept getting it. He paused, tracing the grain of the wood table with his finger. And then there was the scandal, he said softly. I looked up. What scandal? 30 years ago, Walter said, right before your grandmother died. I made a mistake. Claire, a business mistake. I trusted a partner I shouldn't have. I lost a significant amount of money. Not everything, but enough to threaten our standing. Marlene found out. He looked ashamed. It was hard to see him like that, this man who had been my rock for 3 days, looking so small. She fixed it, he said. She moved money around. She borrowed from people I didn't know. She covered the losses so the neighbors wouldn't find out. So the club wouldn't know. She saved our reputation. And she never let you forget it, I guessed. Never, Walter said. From that day on, whenever I tried to set a boundary, whenever I tried to question her spending or her treatment of you, she would bring it up. Do you want everyone to know you are a failure? Dad, do you want everyone to know you almost bankrupt the family? He shook his head. She used my shame as a leash, he said, and she used it to take control of the finances, the trust, everything. She convinced me I was incompetent, and for a long time, I believed her. I reached across the table and took his hand. You are not incompetent, I said. You were human. You made a mistake that cost you your inheritance, he said bitterly. Money is just money, I said. But what she is doing now, tracking me, risking Lily's life that isn't about money, that is about ownership. I looked at the tracking logs again. She is nice to everyone else, I said, realizing the pattern. To the neighbors, to the church group. She is Saint Marlene. She brings casseroles. She organizes fundraisers. But to us? To the people she owns? She is a warden. Public kindness, private cruelty. Walter agreed. It is how she isolates you. If you complain, no one believes you. Marlene? But she is so sweet. She does so much for you. I am ungrateful, I said. That is the narrative. I am the ungrateful daughter. Exactly, Walter said. My phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. Hello? Ms. Bryant? This is the billing department at St. Jude's. My stomach tightened. Yes? We are calling regarding a rejection from your insurance provider. It seems there is a dispute regarding the coding of your admission. They are claiming the observation stay was not medically necessary. What? I said. I had a concussion. The doctor ordered it. I understand, the clerk said. But the insurer is denying the claim. The current outstanding balance is $12,400. I felt the blood drain from my face. $12,000. I didn't have that. I had $3,000 in savings. This has to be a mistake, I said. My patient advocate is handling this. We haven't received any correspondence from an advocate, the clerk said. But we did receive a call from your mother, Mrs. Bryant. She asked for the total. Do not talk to her, I said. She is not the payer. Well, she offered to settle the balance, the clerk said. She requested we send the financial agreement to her. She said she would handle everything. I hung up. I didn't say goodbye. I just pressed the red button. She is doing it, I said to Walter. She is trying to buy her way back in. The hospital bill? Walter asked. $12,000, I said. Insurance denied it. She called them. She wants to pay it. 5 minutes later, my email pinged. From Marlene Bryant. Subject, helping you. Claire, I heard about the insurance mix-up. Typical incompetence. I don't want you worrying about money while you're healing. I can take care of the bill today. I just need you to sign the attached document so I can speak to the billing department and authorize the payment directly. It's just a standard authorization form. Let me help you. Put your pride aside for the baby. Love, Mom. I opened the attachment. It looked official. Limited power of attorney for healthcare and financial administration. It looked boring. It looked helpful. If I signed it, the debt went away. The stress went away. I forwarded it to Nora Vega, the attorney Walter had hired. Is this safe to sign? I typed. Her reply came 3 minutes later. She must have been sitting at her desk. Absolutely not. Claire, this is not a billing authorization. This is a sweeping grant of authority. If you sign this, you are giving her the legal right to make medical decisions for you and the baby, access your bank accounts, and manage your affairs indefinitely. It is drafted to look limited, but the language in paragraph 4 is broad enough to drive a truck through. It essentially appoints her as your guardian. Do not sign, do not reply. I stared at the screen. She wasn't trying to pay a bill. She was trying to buy me. For $12,000. She wanted to purchase my autonomy. She is a predator, I whispered. She senses weakness, Walter said, and she is striking. I feel sick, I said. I almost signed it. If Nora hadn't looked at it, I might have signed it just to make the problem stop. That is how she operates, Walter said. She creates the chaos, then offers the solution, and the price of the solution is your soul. The next morning, the air in the house was tense. We were waiting. We didn't know what for, but we knew the silence from Marlene wouldn't last. Around noon, Detective Miller called. Ms. Bryant, he said. His voice was less casual than before. Detective, I said. Do you have news? We have the preliminary report from the forensic mechanic, he said. He found tool marks on the caliper mounting bolts, and the bleeder valve on the rear left brake was loose, not vibrated loose. It was backed off a quarter turn, just enough to introduce air into the line over time. I gripped the phone. So it was sabotage. It appears to be intentional tampering, Miller said. We are opening a criminal investigation. We are going to subpoena the records from the shop where it was serviced. and we are going to need to talk to anyone who had access to the vehicle. My mother had access, I said. She had the keys. She arranged the service. We will look into it, Miller said. But Claire, until we know who did this, you need to be careful. Is your car secure? It is in the impound lot, I said. Good. Keep your doors locked. If you see anything suspicious, call 911. I hung up. I looked at Lily, who was doing tummy time on a blanket in the living room. She was lifting her head, struggling, working so hard just to see the world. Someone loosened the valve, I said to Walter. Someone wanted the brakes to fail. Not to kill you, Walter said, his face grim. To scare you, to make you crash, to make you need her. It's a sickness, I said. It has to be. It is control, Walter said. And it is about to end. A car door slammed in the driveway. My heart jumped into my throat. I knew that sound. It was the heavy, solid thud of a luxury sedan door. I went to the window. Marlene was walking up the path. She looked immaculate. She was wearing a cream-colored cashmere coat, pressed trousers, and leather gloves. She was carrying a gift bag with tissue paper sticking out of the top. She looked like a grandmother coming for a visit. She looked like the picture of elegance. She is here, I said. Walter stood up. He buttoned his cardigan. Stay seated. Claire, hold the baby. I picked up Lily and sat in the armchair, clutching her to my chest. The doorbell rang. Walter walked to the door. He opened it. Marlene, he said. Hello, Dad, she said. Her voice was bright, breezy. She stepped inside before he could block her. It is freezing out there. She walked into the living room. When she saw me, her face lit up with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Claire, she exclaimed. Oh, look at you. You look tired, honey, but good, healing. She set the gift bag on the coffee table. I brought some things for the baby, she said, and some soothing tea for you. I know how much your head must be hurting. She acted as if the phone call at the hospital never happened. She acted as if she hadn't tried to trick me into a conservatorship yesterday. It was a performance, flawless and terrifying. Why are you here, Mom? I asked. My voice was steady, but my pulse was hammering. To see my granddaughter, of course, she said. She took off her gloves. I haven't even held her yet. Can you believe that? My first grandchild, and I haven't even held her. She stepped toward me, her arms reaching out. Let me take her, she said. You look like you need a break. I pulled Lily closer. No, I said. Marlene stopped. Her smile faltered. Just for a fraction of a second. Claire, she said, a little laugh bubbling up. Don't be silly. I am her grandmother. You are the woman who refused to pick her up when I was in the ER, I said. Oh, for heaven's sake, Marlene sighed. She rolled her eyes. Are we still on that? I told you. I was teaching you a lesson. And look, you survived. You figured it out. You should be thanking me for pushing you to be resourceful. I called Grandpa, I said. I didn't figure it out. I called for help. The very thing you hate. And look where it got you, Marlene said, glancing around the room with disdain. Hiding out in this dusty old house, letting Dad play hero. He can't take care of you, Claire. He can barely take care of himself. He is doing a better job than you, I said. Marlene's eyes narrowed. I want to hold the baby, she said. Her voice was lower now, harder. Here is the condition, I said. You can hold her for 2 minutes, but first, you have to look me in the eye and admit that what you did at the hospital was wrong. You have to apologize for leaving us. Marlene stared at me. The silence stretched, tight as a wire. I will not apologize for parenting you, she said coldly. I will not apologize for having standards. You are being hysterical. This is the concussion talking. You are emotional and you are irrational. I am perfectly lucid, I said. And the answer is no. Marlene took a step closer. She loomed over me. You are ungrateful, she hissed. After everything I have sacrificed for you, I paid for your car. I paid for your clothes. I managed your life so you wouldn't ruin it. And this is how you repay me? By withholding my grandchild? You didn't pay for my car, I said. You used my money. Grandpa told me about the trust. Marlene froze. She whipped her head around to look at Walter. You told her? She spat. You senile old fool. You don't know what you are talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about, Walter said. His voice was calm, but it filled the room. And I know about the audit Nora is starting next week. Marlene's face went white, then red. How dare you, she said. I saved this family. I saved you from disgrace. You bought my silence, Walter said. But the contract has expired. Marlene turned back to me. She looked desperate now, dangerous. Claire, give me the baby, she said. You are not safe here. He is poisoning your mind. You need to come home with me. I have the nursery set up. I have a night nurse hired. Come home. No, I said. I will call CPS, she threatened. I will tell them you are unstable. I will tell them you are keeping the baby in an unsafe environment. Get out, Walter said. Marlene blinked. What? Get out of my house, Walter said. He walked over to the door and opened it. You can't kick me out, Marlene said. I am your daughter. And she is my granddaughter, Walter said, pointing at me. And for the first time in 30 years, I am choosing her over you. Leave, Marlene, before I call the police and show them the mechanic's report. Marlene stopped. The mention of the mechanic hit her. She knew. She looked at me, then at Walter. She smoothed her coat. She put her gloves back on. She regained her composure in an instant, mask sliding back into place. You are making a mistake, she said to me. When you fail, and you will fail. Claire, don't come crawling back to me. I won't be there. I know, I said. You never were. She walked out the door. Walter slammed it shut and locked the deadbolt. I let out a breath I had been holding for 10 minutes. I looked down at Lily. She was asleep. She hadn't heard a thing. It is done, Walter said. He leaned against the door, looking exhausted. She isn't done, I said. She doesn't lose gracefully. My phone buzzed. I picked it up. It was a notification from our extended family group chat. Aunts, cousins, second cousins, a group I mostly ignored. Marlene Bryant sent a message. Family, please keep Claire in your prayers. She is struggling deeply with postpartum mental health issues following her accident. She is confused and has cut off contact with me in a moment of paranoia. She is currently with Dad, who is unfortunately not in a state to help her. I am working with doctors to get her the help she needs. Please do not overwhelm her with messages, but pray for her return to stability. We love her so much. I read it out loud. She is painting me as crazy, I said, and she is painting you as senile. It is the only card she has left, Walter said. Discredit the witnesses. Everyone will believe her, I said. She is Marlene. She is the matriarch. Let them believe her for now, Walter said. Lies run fast, Claire, but the truth has stamina. I looked at the message again. We love her so much. It was a lie wrapped in a prayer. It was a weapon. I wasn't just fighting my mother anymore. I was fighting the story she had been telling about me since I was born. The story that I was weak. The story that I was broken. I looked at my daughter. I am not broken, I said, and I wasn't. I was angry, and for the first time. I realized that anger wasn't a sin. It was fuel. The healing process was not a straight line. It was a jagged, uneven path that consisted of good mornings and terrible afternoons. 2 weeks after the accident, the headaches had dulled to a low-grade hum, a constant static in the background of my life that only spiked when I moved too fast or stared at a screen for too long. But I was moving. That was the victory. I had set up a makeshift office at Walter's dining room table. My laptop sat open next to a stack of burp cloths and a half-drunk cup of decaf tea. David, my boss, had agreed to let me work reduced hours remotely while I recovered. "Just keep the logistics moving, Claire," he had said. "We don't need you to run the marathon. Just keep us from tripping." It felt good to look at spreadsheets. Rows and columns were predictable. If a shipment was late, there was a reason: a storm, a strike, a mechanical failure. There was always a cause and an effect. It was clean. It was logical. Unlike my family, Walter was in the kitchen, washing dishes. The sound of clinking porcelain was comforting. We had fallen into a rhythm. He handled the morning shift with Lily, so I could sleep until 8. I took the night shift so he could rest his aching joints. We were a team born of necessity, but it was evolving into something else: mutual respect. "How is the work?" Walter asked, drying his hands on a towel as he walked into the dining room. "Steady," I said. "It feels good to use my brain for something other than analyzing my mother's text messages." "Speaking of which," Walter said, his face growing serious, "we need to finish the timeline for Detective Miller. He called again this morning. He wants everything written down, every inconsistency, every threat." I closed my laptop. The comfort of the spreadsheets vanished, replaced by the cold reality of the investigation. "Okay," I said. "Let's do it." We spent the next 2 hours building a map of the dysfunction. We didn't use red string and thumbtacks like on television, but the effect was the same. We used a legal pad. Date: August 12th. Event: Marlene insists on taking my car for service. Note: she refuses to let me use my usual mechanic. She sends her guy. Date: August 14th. Event: car returned. No invoice provided. Marlene claims it was a gift. Date: September 10th. Event: Elena, her assistant, quits. Claims Marlene forced her to install tracking software. Date: October 3rd. Event: the accident. Brake warning light flashes seconds before impact. Date: October 3rd. Later. Event: Marlene refuses emergency contact. Date: October 5th. Event: Marlene attempts to coerce signature on power of attorney document under the guise of paying a bill. When we wrote it all down, seeing it in black and blue ink, the pattern was undeniable. It wasn't just a series of bad moments, it was a campaign, a systematic dismantling of my independence. "It looks so calculated," I whispered, staring at the page. She planned the failure, maybe not the specific crash, but she planned the fragility. She wanted the car to be unreliable so I would be unreliable. "She wanted you grounded," Walter said. "In every sense of the word." My phone buzzed on the table. It wasn't a text from Marlene. It was from Aunt Linda. Linda was Marlene's younger sister. She lived in Florida. We spoke maybe twice a year, usually on holidays when she would ask me why I wasn't married yet. "Claire, honey, I heard about the accident. Your mom is frantic. She says you are staying in some old house and won't let her see the baby. Call me immediately. We are all so worried about your mental state." I read it out loud. "The flying monkeys are arriving," Walter said dryly. "She says Mom is frantic," I said, feeling a spike of anger. "Mom isn't frantic. Mom is plotting." "Linda doesn't know that," Walter said. "Linda only knows what Marlene tells her, and Marlene is telling her that you are having a breakdown. I should text her back," I said, reaching for the phone. "I should tell her the truth." "No," Walter said. He reached out and covered my hand with his. "Do not engage with the scouts. Claire, they are just there to report back to the general. If you tell Linda about the breaks, Marlene will know we know. If you tell Linda about the trust, Marlene will know we are auditing." "So I just let them think I am crazy?" I asked. "I let them think I am the villain?" "You let them think whatever they want," Walter said. "We sort them later. Right now, we only talk to the people who are in the boat with us. Everyone else is just water trying to get in." I put the phone down. It kept buzzing. Cousin Jessica, Uncle Bob, a sudden deluge of concern from people who hadn't asked how I was doing during my entire pregnancy. I muted the thread. "Who is safe?" I asked. "Besides you?" Nora Vega, Walter said. The detective. Your boss seems decent. And you, I said. Walter looked away. He picked up his coffee mug, but it was empty. He stared into the bottom of it for a long time. Grandpa? I asked. What is it? We are doing a timeline, he said softly. We are listing all the ways she lied, all the ways she manipulated. Yes, I said. There is one entry missing, he said. The air in the room changed. It became heavy, charged with the static of a coming storm. What entry? I asked. Walter set the mug down. He didn't look at me. He looked at the wall, at a picture of my grandmother, Rose, that hung above the sideboard. 30 years ago, he said. November 2nd, the day after Rose's funeral. I waited. I told you she took the trust, Walter said. I told you she redirected it, but I didn't tell you how. You said she pressured you, I said. She did, Walter said, but that wasn't how she got legal control. You see, the trust was set up so that I was the primary trustee, and upon my death, it would pass to her. But while I was alive, she had no access. He took a breath, a shaky, rattling breath. The day after the funeral, I was sedated. The doctor had given me something for the grief. I was in a fog. Marlene came into the study. She had a stack of papers. She said they were for the life insurance. She said they were for the funeral home. She said, "Just sign here. Dad, I will handle the rest." I felt a cold prickle on my neck. I signed, Walter said. I didn't read them. I trusted her. She was my daughter. She was grieving too. What did you sign? I asked. I signed a resignation of trusteeship, Walter said. And I signed a document appointing her as the sole administrator. But that wasn't enough. The document required a witness, and it required a notarized spousal waiver, which obviously Rose couldn't provide because she was dead. He turned to look at me then. His eyes were wet. She forged Rose's signature, he said. She backdated the document to 3 days before your grandmother died. She made it look like Rose had agreed to transfer control before she passed. My mouth fell open. That is fraud, I whispered. That is a felony. Yes, Walter said. And I found out about it 6 months later. The bank called me to clarify a transfer. I went down there. I saw the document. I saw Rose's signature. It was shaky. It looked like Rose's writing. But I knew. Rose was in a coma for 3 days before she died. She couldn't have signed anything. And you didn't call the police? I asked. The question came out sharper than I intended. I confronted Marlene, Walter said. She cried. She threw herself on the floor. She said she did it to save the family from the debt I had caused. She said if I went to the police, I would be sending the mother of your 5-year-old self to prison. She said, "Do you want Claire to visit her mother in jail?" He closed his eyes. And I couldn't do it, he whispered. I couldn't be the one to destroy the family. I thought if I let her have the money, she would be satisfied. I thought she would stop. He looked at me, begging for understanding. I was trying to protect you from the scandal, he said. I was trying to protect you from having a criminal for a mother. I stared at him. I wanted to feel sympathy. I wanted to hug him and tell him it was okay, but I couldn't. A hot, searing anger rose up in my chest. It wasn't the explosive anger I felt toward Marlene. It was a deep, aching betrayal. You didn't protect me, I said. My voice was low, trembling. Claire, he started. No, I said. You didn't protect me. You sacrificed me. I stood up, gripping the edge of the table. You let her steal my future, I said. That money could have paid for college. I worked double shifts at a diner while I was studying logistics. I drove a car that broke down constantly. I lived in an apartment with black mold because it was all I could afford. I know, Walter said. His head bowed. But it's not about the money, I said. It is about the power. You gave her the power. You taught her that she could commit a felony and get away with it because you were too afraid of a scene. You taught her that her tears were more important than the law. You created a monster. Grandpa. And then, you let that monster raise me. I did, Walter said. He didn't argue. He didn't make excuses. I did. Silence isn't protection, I said, tears finally spilling over. Silence is collusion. You watched her gaslight me for 30 years. You watched her tell me I was ungrateful. You watched her tell me I was a burden. And you knew the whole time, that she was the one who was a thief. I was a coward, Walter said. There is no other word for it. I don't know if I can forgive you for that, I said. Not today. I don't expect you to, Walter said. I don't deserve it. He stood up slowly. He looked older than he ever had. I am going to check on the baby, he said. He walked past me. He didn't try to touch me. He gave me the space I needed. I sat back down. I looked at the timeline on the legal pad. November 2nd, 1996. Marlene commits fraud. Walter stays silent. It was the first domino, and it had taken 30 years to fall on me. The meeting with Nora Vega was the next morning. She came to the house because I still wasn't allowed to drive. Nora was a sharp woman in her 60s with silver hair and glasses that hung on a chain. She sat in the living room, a briefcase open on her lap. Walter sat in the armchair, quiet and subdued. I sat on the sofa with Lily. I have reviewed the documents regarding the trust, Nora said, and Walter's affidavit regarding the forgery. She looked at Walter, then at me. If we pursue this, Nora said, it is the nuclear option. The statute of limitations on the fraud itself has likely passed, depending on when the discovery of the crime officially happened. But the mismanagement of the trust, the breach of fiduciary duty, that is ongoing. We can sue for a full accounting. We can sue for restitution. What does that look like? I asked. It looks like a forensic audit, Nora said. We freeze the assets. We drag every bank statement from the last 30 years into court. It will be public. It will be ugly. And given Marlene's personality, she will not settle. She will fight. She will destroy us in the press, Walter said, or on Facebook. She is already doing that, I said. Nora nodded. I saw the post. Prayers for Claire. It is a classic move. She is positioning herself as the concerned victim. What are my options for the accident? I asked. That is separate, Nora said. If the police conclude there was tampering, the district attorney will pick that up. That becomes a criminal case. The state versus Marlene Bryant. You would be a witness, not a plaintiff. But until then? Until then, Nora said. We file for a temporary restraining order. We cite the harassment at your workplace, the attempt to coerce a signature while you were incapacitated, and the mechanic's report as evidence of potential danger. Will a judge grant it? I asked. With the mechanic's report? Yes, Nora said. But be warned, a restraining order is just a piece of paper. It tells the police to arrest her if she comes near you. It doesn't stop her from posting about you. It doesn't stop her from calling your cousins. I don't care about the cousins anymore, I said. I just want to be safe. Then we file, Nora said. I will have the paperwork ready by tomorrow. She closed her briefcase. One more thing, she said. She will try to contact you before she gets served. She will sense the walls closing in. Do not engage. Do not reply to texts. Do not answer calls. Any communication goes through me. Understood, I said. Nora was right. Marlene sensed the shift. That afternoon, I was scrolling through social media, a bad habit I couldn't break, when I saw it. Marlene had posted a photo. It was an old picture of me from high school, looking sullen and tired. My heart is breaking today. My daughter Claire is struggling so much right now. The accident has triggered a severe episode, and she has cut off the family who loves her. She is being influenced by people who do not have her best interests at heart. I am just a mother trying to save her child. Please, everyone, pray that she comes home. Postpartum mental health awareness, pray. For Claire. It had 150 likes. The comments were a slurry of sympathy. Oh, Marlene, you are such a saint. Stay strong. Mama Bear. Mental illness is so hard. We are praying for you. She was using my trauma for engagement. She was using my mental health, which was perfectly fine aside from the rage, as a shield to deflect from her own crimes. I felt the familiar pull to comment, to scream, to post the mechanic's report and say, "She cut my brakes." But I stopped. Dignity means choosing the right room. I closed the app. I opened my email and composed a message to David. My boss, David, I wanted to give you an update. I am working with legal counsel regarding my mother's harassment. You may see things on social media where she claims I am unstable. Please know that this is a tactic she is using to discredit me during a legal dispute regarding a family trust and the accident investigation. I am attaching a letter from my attorney, Nora Vega, confirming that I am of sound mind and that any communication from Marlene Bryant to my employer should be considered harassment. Thank you for your support. Claire. I hit send. Then I texted my friend, Sarah. Sarah was the one person who knew what Marlene was really like. She had seen Marlene make me cry at my own college graduation because my gown looked cheap. Sarah, it is happening. I am going to war. She is posting about me. Don't believe it. Sarah replied instantly. I already reported the post as harassment. I blocked her. And I'm bringing you lasagna on Thursday. Love you. I breathed out. I didn't need 150 likes. I needed one boss who respected me and one friend who brought lasagna. That was enough. We have a problem, Walter said 2 days later. He was holding an invitation card. It was thick, cream-colored stock with gold lettering. You are cordially invited to the 70th birthday celebration of Aunt June. Aunt June, I said. Marlene's older sister. The matriarch of the extended clan, Walter said. The party is this Saturday at the Ridgeway Country Club. I can't go, I said immediately. I can't be in a room with her. If you don't go, Walter said. Marlene wins the narrative. He tossed the invitation on the table. She will stand up and make a toast, Walter said. She will cry. She will tell the entire family, June, the cousins, the business partners, that you are in a facility somewhere, or that you are refusing to see her because you are off your medication. She will cement the story that you are the problem. And if I go, I asked, it will be a scene. She will scream. Let her scream, Walter said. If you walk into that room, calm, holding your baby, standing on your own 2 feet, her story falls apart. You don't have to say a word. Your presence is the proof. I looked at the invitation. Ridgeway Country Club. It was Marlene's turf. It was where she held court. It was where she felt most powerful. I am terrified, I admitted. Whatever confidence I have, she can strip it away with one look. Not anymore, Walter said, because you know the secret now. You know she isn't a giant. She is just a thief in a nice coat. He looked at me, his eyes steady. And I will be there, he said. I won't be silent this time. Claire, I promise you, if she comes for you, she has to go through me. I thought about the timeline. I thought about the brake fluid. I thought about the forged signature. I wasn't going to hide in this house forever. I wasn't going to let her turn me into a ghost. Okay, I said. We go. Friday afternoon, the day before the party. The phone rang. It was Detective Miller. Claire, he said. Are you sitting down? Yes, I said. I was feeding Lily. Walter was in the garden. We executed the subpoena on the repair shop, Miller said. The owner, a guy named Frank, he cracked pretty fast. He didn't want to go down for criminal negligence. What did he say? I asked. He gave us the service logs, Miller said. But more importantly, he gave us the text messages. Texts? He communicated with your mother via text to schedule the appointments, Miller said. We have a message from August 12th, the day the car was brought in. I held my breath. Frank texted her saying the rear calipers were sticking and the pads were critically low. Miller said. He recommended a full replacement. And your mother replied. Miller read, his voice flat. Do not replace them. Just clean them up so they stop squeaking. She is selling the car in a month anyway. Don't waste my money." "I wasn't selling the car," I whispered. "We know," Miller said. "But here's the kicker. There is another text from the day before the accident. October 2nd. What does it say? Frank, make sure that receipt you printed doesn't show the declined service. I don't want her worrying." "She hid it," I said. "She knowingly sent me out in a dangerous car and hid the evidence." "That is reckless endangerment," Miller said. "At a minimum, depending on how the DA looks at it, it could be assault." "Is that enough to arrest her?" I asked. "It is enough to bring her in for a formal interview," Miller said. "We are calling her today. We want her down at the station on Monday morning." "Monday," I said. "The party is Saturday." "She doesn't know we have the texts yet," Miller said. "She thinks we are just looking at the car. When she walks into that interview on Monday, she is going to be blindsided." "Thank you, Detective," I said. I hung up. I looked out the window at Walter. He was pruning the roses, cutting away the dead weight so the new growth could survive. Marlene had lied to the mechanic. She had lied to me. She had risked my life to save a few $100s, or to keep me dependent, or both. She was going to the party tomorrow thinking she was the queen of the family, the benevolent victim dealing with a crazy daughter. She didn't know that the walls weren't just closing in, they had already fallen. I picked up Lily and walked out to the garden. "Grandpa," I said. He turned, shears in hand. "The detective called," I said. "They have the texts. She told the mechanic to ignore the brakes, and she told him to hide it from me." Walter's face went hard. The sorrow was gone. The regret was gone. All that was left was the steel I had seen at the hospital. "Then tomorrow isn't just a party," he said. "No," I said. "It's a funeral." "For who?" he asked. "For her reputation," I said. I looked at the sky. It was a clear, hard blue. "I am ready," I said, and for the first time since the crash. I actually meant it. The Ridgeway Heights Country Club was a fortress of polite society. The driveway was lined with manicured hedges. The portico was supported by white columns that looked like they belonged on a banknote, and the air smelled of expensive perfume and old money. I sat in the back of Walter's Buick, adjusting Lily's bonnet. My hands were steady. That surprised me. I had expected to be shaking, but the fear had burned off days ago, leaving only a cold, hard clarity. "You don't have to do this," Walter said from the driver's seat. He was watching me in the rearview mirror. He was wearing his best suit, a navy wool that was 20 years old but still looked sharp. "Yes, I do," I said. "If I don't walk into that room, her story becomes the truth. I am not letting her write my history anymore." I looked at the passenger seat. Sarah, my best friend, was there. She had agreed to come as backup. She wasn't family, which made her the most important person in the room, a witness who didn't care about the Bryant family reputation. "I have the diaper bag," Sarah said, holding it up like a shield. "I have the bottles, and I have a very low tolerance for passive-aggressive comments about your parenting. I am ready." "Let's go," I said. We walked in. The banquet hall was full. Aunt June's 70th birthday was a major event. There were crystal glasses clinking, waiters moving with trays of hors d'oeuvres, and a hum of conversation that stopped the moment I crossed the threshold. Heads turned. I saw Cousin Jessica nudge her husband. I saw Uncle Bob freeze mid-sip of his scotch. They were looking for the crazy woman. They were looking for the struggling daughter Marlene had described in her Facebook post. Disheveled, hysterical, broken. Instead, they saw me. I was wearing a slate blue dress that fit perfectly. My hair was pulled back in a neat chignon. I was holding my daughter against my chest in a carrier. My posture upright. I looked calm. I looked capable. And standing next to me was Walter, looking not like a senile old man, but like a patriarch. Marlene was across the room, near the gift table. She was holding court, laughing at something the club president was saying. She looked radiant in emerald green. Then she saw me. Her smile froze. It didn't drop. She was too good for that. But it became brittle. Her eyes darted to the guests around her, gauging their reaction. She realized instantly that the narrative was slipping. She had to reclaim it. She started walking toward me, arms wide open. "Claire!" she announced, her voice pitching perfectly between relief and delight. "Oh, thank God. You came." She reached me in the center of the room. She went to hug me, but the baby carrier created a physical barrier. She stopped, resting her hands on my arms instead, performing a squeeze that looked affectionate but felt like a vice. "I was so worried," she said, loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. "I didn't think you were up for this. Sweetheart, are you feeling okay? Is it too loud for you?" "I am fine, Mom," I said. My voice was level. "I wanted to wish Aunt June a happy birthday." Of course, Marlene said. She looked down at Lily. "And you brought my granddaughter." "Oh, look at her. She is sleeping. Let me see her." She pulled a phone out of her clutch. "Let's get a picture," she said, leaning in. "Just one for the family album. Everyone has been dying to see us together." She moved to put her cheek next to mine. She was trying to frame the shot. The reconciled mother and daughter. The crisis averted. The lie confirmed. I took a half step back. "No, Mom," I said. It wasn't a shout. It was a conversational tone. But in the quiet room, it carried— Marlene's smile faltered. "Don't be silly. Claire, it is just a photo." "I am not taking photos today," I said. "But since we are all here, I think we need to talk, privately." "This isn't the time," Marlene hissed, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Don't make a scene." "I am not making a scene," I said. "I am asking for 5 minutes, in the library, with you, me, Grandpa, and Aunt June." "Aunt June?" Marlene scoffed. "It is her birthday. I am not bothering her with your drama. If you don't come to the library," I said calmly, "I will ask the DJ for the microphone, and we can talk right here." Marlene stared at me. She saw something in my eyes she hadn't seen before. The fear was gone. "Fine," she snapped. 5 minutes. To calm you down." The library was quiet. It smelled of leather and dust. Aunt June, confused but curious, sat on a velvet sofa. She was the neutral party, Marlene's older sister, but less involved in the day-to-day drama. Walter stood by the fireplace. Sarah waited by the door, holding Lily, who I had unstrapped and handed over. Marlene paced. "This is ridiculous," she said. "Dragging June away from her party because you are having an episode." "I am not having an episode," I said. I pulled my phone out and placed it on the coffee table. "I have Nora Vega, my attorney, on speaker. She is witnessing this conversation." "Attorney?" Marlene laughed. It was a nervous, jagged sound. "You have an attorney? Who is paying for that? You can barely pay your rent." "I am paying for it," Walter said. Marlene spun around. "You stay out of this. Dad, you are confusing her." "Let her speak." "Marlene," Aunt June said. She looked at me. "Go ahead. Claire, what is this about?" I took a breath. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just started the list. "On October 3rd, I said. "I was in a car accident. I was taken to St. Jude's Hospital with a concussion. The hospital called Mom to come sit with me so I wouldn't be separated from my 3-week-old baby. She refused." "I told you," Marlene interrupted. "I was teaching you." "She refused," I continued, talking over her. "She left me there. Then, 2 days ago, she attempted to get me to sign a power of attorney document by claiming it was a billing authorization for the hospital. She tried to trick me into giving her legal control over my life. "I was trying to help you pay a bill," Marlene shouted. "You are twisting everything." "And," I said, "we know you tracked my location for 3 years using software you forced your assistant to install." Marlene's mouth opened, then closed. She looked at Aunt June, who was frowning. "And," I said, delivering the final blow, "we know about the breaks." The room went dead silent. What about the brakes? Aunt June asked sharply. The police have the text messages. Mom, I said. From you to the mechanic. Do not replace them. Just clean them up. Don't waste my money. And the text from the day before the crash. Make sure the receipt doesn't show the declined service. Marlene's face went gray. She backed up until her legs hit a chair, and she sat down hard. I didn't mean for you to crash, she whispered. I didn't want you driving all over the state. I wanted you close. I wanted you to be safe. You wanted me stranded, I said. So I would have to call you. I did it for you, she cried. Everything I do is for you. You don't understand the pressure. Claire, the world is dangerous. You are too soft. You are too fragile. You need me to manage things. You would fall apart without me. I am standing right here, I said. I have a job. I have a child. I survived a crash you engineered. I am not falling apart. Mom, you are... Walter stepped forward then. And there is one more thing, he said. He looked at June. 30 years ago, Walter said. Marlene forged Rose's signature on the trust documents. June gasped. What? She stole the trust, Walter said. She used the money to pay off the debts I made. Yes, but then she kept it. She used it to build this life, to buy the clothes she is wearing, to pay for the membership at this club. She stole Claire's inheritance to buy her own status. Dad! Marlene shrieked. How could you? I saved us. I saved the family name. You saved yourself, Walter said. And I let you. I stayed silent because I didn't want the scandal. I thought I was protecting the family. But I realize now I was just protecting your power, and I am done. Marlene looked around the room. She looked at June, whose face was a mask of shock and disgust. She looked at Walter, who stood tall. She looked at me. She didn't see fear anymore. She saw a mirror, and she hated what it showed her. You are all ungrateful, she spat. I carried this family on my back. I made the hard choices. And this is the thanks I get? Ambushed at a birthday party? It is not an ambush, a male voice said from the doorway. We all turned. Detective Miller was standing there. He was wearing a suit, not a uniform. He looked calm, professional, and terrifying. Marlene Bryant? He asked. Marlene stood up. Her hands were shaking. Who are you? I am Detective Miller with the Ashford Glen Police Department, he said. He walked into the room and handed her a folder. I am serving you with a subpoena for your financial records and a notice of investigation regarding the vehicle tampering. He didn't cuff her. It wasn't a movie. It was worse. It was bureaucratic. It was real. We need you to come to the station on Monday for a formal interview, Miller said. And effective immediately. A temporary restraining order has been filed by Ms. Bryant. You are to have no contact with her or the child. Marlene looked at the papers. She looked at the detective. Her composure finally broke. She didn't scream. She crumbled. Her shoulders slumped. Her face crumpled. And she looked, for the first time, like a small, scared woman. I just wanted to be a good mother, she sobbed. Why doesn't anyone see that? I looked at her. For 32 years, I had wanted her approval. I had wanted her to tell me I was good. I had wanted her to love me without conditions. But looking at her now, this woman who would risk my life to keep my attention, I realized something profound. I didn't want her approval anymore, because her approval cost too much. Good mothers don't break their children to keep them, I said. I turned to Sarah. Give me my daughter, I said. Sarah handed Lily to me. I strapped her back into the carrier. I felt her warmth against my chest. We are leaving, I said to Walter. I will drive you, Walter said. We walked out of the library. We walked back through the banquet hall. People stared. Marlene was still in the library, sobbing. I didn't look back. I walked out the front doors, into the cool night air, and I took the deepest breath of my life. The aftermath wasn't magical. It was practical. We went back to Walter's house. I sat at the kitchen table and made a list. This was what I did. I was a logistics coordinator. I managed chaos. 1. Childcare. I couldn't rely on family. I researched 3 licensed daycares in Lake Briar. I scheduled tours for Monday. 2. Housing. I couldn't go back to my apartment in Ashford Glen. It was too close to her. I looked at rentals near Walter. There was a small cottage 2 streets over. It was small, but it was safe. 3. Legal. I updated my will. I named Walter as my primary beneficiary and guardian, with Sarah as the backup. I explicitly wrote that under no circumstances was Marlene Bryant to have access to my child. It wasn't emotional work. It was structural work. I was building a foundation that didn't rest on sand. Walter came into the kitchen. He had changed out of his suit into his cardigan. "She called June," he said. "June hung up on her." "Good," I said. "And," Walter said, sitting down. I made the call to the bank. I looked up. "The audit?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "I initiated a full fiduciary review. I told them I suspect fraud dating back 30 years. I told them I am prepared to testify that I was coerced." "Grandpa," I said, "that will ruin the family name. The scandal people will talk." "Let them talk," Walter said. He reached across the table and took my hand. "I spent 30 years worrying about what people would say, and it cost me my relationship with you. I am not making that trade again." He squeezed my hand. "The truth is messy, Claire, but it is the only thing that is clean." I nodded. I looked at the baby monitor on the table. Lily was sleeping in the other room. She would never know Marlene's cruelty. She would never know the feeling of waiting for a car to crash just so her mother would pay attention to her. She would know safety. She would know truth. She would know that love didn't hurt. "Thank you," I said. "For what?" Walter asked. "For answering the phone," I said. "That day at the hospital. You picked up." Walter smiled. It was a real smile, full of peace. "I will always pick up," he said. I closed my notebook. The list was done. The plan was set. I wasn't Claire the victim anymore. I wasn't Claire the ungrateful daughter. I was Claire the mother, and that was enough. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope Claire's journey resonated with you. It's a reminder that sometimes the hardest battles we fight are the ones within our own families, and that breaking the cycle is the ultimate victory. I would love to hear from you. Please leave a comment below and tell me where you are listening from. Have you ever had to set a hard boundary with a family member? How did you handle it? If you enjoyed this story, please make sure to subscribe to Revenge Stories. I have many more stories to share about justice, resilience, and the turning of tables. Until next time, stay safe and stand your ground.